Falcon fans, welcome back. It's Zach Miller and Peter Hale. This is the Midtown Madness Podcast. Before we get going, thank you so much for listening. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. It's season 4, and once again, the Midtown Madness podcast is brought to you by Two Men and a Garden. Pete, man, I'm seeing cramps all over college basketball early on this season, and if only they knew how good Two Men in a Garden pickles were for cramps. I gotta tell you, it'd be like Gatorade, the invention of Gatorade all over again. We love Two Men in a Garden. I love the salsa. Peter loves the salsa and the pickles. They're local. They're awesome. And they have all the flavors to suit your individual salsa preference. You can pick up their many products at any local grocery store or online at twomeninthegarden.com. Follow them on social media at Two Men Salsa on Instagram and Twitter. Pete. If not for 10 minutes on Saturday night, this weekend would have been real special.
I agree with that. And I think we still pulled out the win, right? Like we still got the win. I don't want to let it sour that completely. But I think on the whole, it was a more positive than negative week for SLU athletics.
I would definitely agree with you there. I guess we start with men's basketball. Like that's the kind of position we're being put in on a weekly basis by the other sports at SLU, and I mean it's time for men's basketball to take their share of the workload, I think. But so let's go with them. Let's go with them first. In another twist, I think at this point they're just releasing player by player just to build some excitement for these guys.
Yeah.
And give them kind of like Bruce Zhang, if he would have come in to the game on Saturday and been terrible, he still would have gotten a standing ovation as he left the court.
Right.
Because people were ready for him. So I think this is my new conspiracy theory, that they are this is a big marketing ploy. This is a Jackie Moon level marketing ploy. They forget the videos, forget the Twitter videos. We're going straight for just kayfabing eligibility to get them to each roll out slowly. They're playing chess over there at the SLU athletic department.
That's got to be it, right? Everybody's got a debut game.
Yes,
that's the promotion this year.
Unbelievable. But Bruce Zhang ruled eligible on Thursday the 9th. I mean, great. I'm happy he's playing. We needed him badly.
Yeah, we sure did. And he didn't play all that much on Saturday, but
much to my dismay. We'll get into that.
But it was great to see him out there. He did some things that showed that he could play right away. That he deserves a spot in the rotation, and that undoubtedly he brings some much needed size to this lineup.
I mean, I would say that I think is he, man, I think he's as college ready as big men get at the non-power 5 level.
I think so. I've always said, bigs take time. And like, if you have a roster spot where you could be patient with them, and if they're willing to be patient, it's going to take most bigs who are not those top prospects, right? A little bit of time to get up to speed physically, to get to where they need to be. It's just a much bigger learning curve than with guards. And yeah, he showed some flashes of things that it's kind of like, okay, yeah, this guy, he can play right away.
Yeah, I like him, and I love that SLU fans have taken to him very lovingly, I thought.
For sure. You could say, like, it feels like
like Cody Ellis.
Well, it's that, and it's also one of those things where everyone seems aware of it. Like the crowd's a little bit smaller, which means we have a lot less of the sort of normie fans in there. And so there's a higher percentage of people in there who are aware of this drawn out process of him being declared eligible. So it's like an even bigger relief when you do finally see him in uniform and on the floor.
We've talked a lot about eligibility and what has all gone into this saga. And I think the most bizarre, actually, it's not the most bizarre because we've gotten really bizarre. But I think one of the more bizarre, the underrated things is that we don't have anything about Magasa's situation. Like,
No.
I don't. I mean, we knew that Bruce was pro, right? We knew that was the issue. We knew SVB was transferring grades from one country to another. We know Brett as a Weiro is waiting on a 2-time transfer waiver. We don't know what I almost said Tenon Magasa. We don't know what Abu Magasa is waiting on.
No, we don't. And it could be any of the above. It could be something different. I mean, it's just international player stuff, right? You just wish
I
it
don't
were
think
done
it's a
sooner.
2-time transfer rule.
It's not that, right? It's not that. But it could be academic. It could just be, them, making sure everything checks out in terms of like who he played for in the past. It's I actually would, if I were a betting man, I would expect him to be ready before Wyoming. This week. Just the way that these international ones are coming in, I feel like
they're rolling them out. They're one by one.
Yeah, it's not going to be another week. I'm thinking we hear something on him soon. I don't see any reason why he won't be eligible right away. It's just a matter of processing it.
Yeah, I think it's that transitioning of the grades. Signing day. This got us a little there were some nervous fingers in the chat this week.
Yeah.
When signing day hit and Jaquavis Williford posts in his Instagram story he is postponing the signing day.
Yeah, in this day of NIL and some last minute chicanery around there in college hoops everywhere. It had us all a little bit nervous. None of us really had an inside track on what was going on here. And as it turns out, it was just a delay, right? 2 days later, he signs. Signing day, I gotta say, Zach, really snuck up on me this year. I knew in theory all along when it was happening, and then I didn't think about it at all that week. And then all of a sudden, I'm on Twitter that morning and I see people starting to sign, and I was like, oh, that's right, it's signing day. I completely forgot. And so it really snuck up on me. And so when he had postponed, it was just kind of I don't want to say a slug in the gut, but we definitely raised an eyebrow. I hope everything's all right here. I don't know if it's us being just damaged SLU fans, or if it's just the era of college sports right now that has us on edge.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot of everything, right? It's a nice jar full of sports fan trauma that's filled up.
Which
is completely fake trauma, by the way. I just want to make that clear that it is absolute dog shit what I put myself through and what everybody else puts themselves through. It is.
I was just gonna say self-inflicted trauma.
Oh God, yes. God. 75-63 win over Southern Indiana. I don't know. I guess I don't love that spread.
Well, it was the same story that we saw on Saturday, right? It was bigger, and then it was 12. There was a point in the middle of the game where there were some people, I think specifically the Joel Hall, who had predicted on Billikens.com. He was like, we're only going to win this by 12, because other people were saying, what was Vegas, 17.5 or something like that. And I think the Wiz had a bigger spread. And
Nobody beats the Wiz.
There was a point early in the second half where everybody was dunking on the people who were pessimistic because we were up by about 19 or 20 at the time. And then all of a sudden, the same thing that always happens in the second half happens. We get a little bit cold and we wind up winning this thing by 12. So the people who were a little more pessimistic on the line on this one got to dunk on everybody else at the end. But they never make it easy. I guess an opening season win is what we needed, what we wanted. But and we'll get into this even more on Saturday. I just wish they could put a game away.
Yeah, that seems to be an evergreen statement.
Yeah.
But looking at this game, Billiken started Hughes, Meadows, Parker, Jimerson, Hargrove. I don't think we had any surprise there.
No surprise. It's just weird to see that as the starting
Yeah.
lineup, right? You're lining up a 6'4" guy at center, having him take the tip. It's all very weird.
Yeah. Run us down, it looked like SLU really we came out of the gates flying, a lot of energy.
Yeah. That's from the start, right? Like from the jump, it was just like, okay, we don't have size, but we're going to compensate for that disadvantage with effort, energy, hitting the glass hard, using a lot of defensive pressure to get to Southern Indiana. I think we moved the ball around well, shot a lot of threes in the beginning, but didn't really stick with that part necessarily. But regardless, I think we did a lot of what Ford said we would do when rolling out a smaller lineup.
I think Hargrove, man, he really, like, I don't want to say we're that people are down on him going into the season, but I think people wondered if he had another level, another gear.
Yeah.
And I think he set out on Monday night to prove everyone wrong.
I think you're right. It was more than just like a favorable matchup or a hot night or anything like that. Like he was playing with a very clear chip on his shoulder. He was fired up. I mean, like he was really, after every whistle when a play went his way, like an and one or a drawing a foul or whatever, he was really amped up. And so that was great to see. He ended up with 27 and 15, both career highs. He did leave the game with cramps with a few minutes left, but that hasn't really turned out to be anything. Rebounded hard, man. I mean, like 15 rebounds is pretty incredible for a guy who otherwise has no business starting at the 5. He's just put in this unusual position. He's accepted his assignment. His effort was undeniable. And Zach, I think the question is now, after seeing his offensive output in that game, is he the stretch 5 we've been waiting for all these years?
Yes, until Bruce Zhang gets up to speed.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I am going to remind everybody, because I am a self-important D-bag, that I have been saying that TJ Hargrove would be a great stretch 4 or 5 since he got to SLU.
Well,
I said it.
Now we have some evidence to support your theory.
Yes. Larry Hughes the second is really playing with the confidence of his dad right now.
Yeah, and he has such a different game too, right? Like his dad was never really a big 3-point shooter. He was a rhythm shooter and shot it a little bit. He wasn't the most efficient perimeter shooter. But Larry Jr. is like that's his number one button, right? I mean, like in this game, he's our second leading scorer. He's got 12. All 3 of his 3-pointers came in the first half. He's shot it pretty efficiently so far this season. Looked good, and his shot looked great in those exhibition games. And it's to go from preferred walk-on to second leading scorer, as he transitions into this season is just really reassuring on a night when Jimerson and Parker really weren't lighting it up at all.
Yeah, no, they were 9 and 8 respectively.
Mm-hmm.
Combined 6 of 22 from the field and 1 of 7 from 3. I mean, I don't know if I want to talk about being concerned that both could not play well in a game, but I don't know.
that's where Hughes and his progression really step in and help, right? Because like if Jimerson was cold from 3 last season, we were in a lot of trouble because we just didn't really have a whole lot of other perimeter threats, right? Like Yuri really wasn't that. Javante Perkins wasn't himself all season long. Parker was still getting up to speed, not playing huge minutes, and we just didn't have that other perimeter threat. Now we've got 3 pretty legit threats at any given time. So it is a little reassuring to me that in a night when they're both off, we've got somebody who can kind of step in and fill the role. Still having them both kind of be off on the same night really is not, it's not something you want to have happen again. And it's definitely one of the contributing factors to letting Southern Indiana get in. This is a game where we shouldn't have let up 63 points and we should have scored more than 75. So having both of them be off on the same night it doesn't help.
I really like Sion Medley. That kid can play.
He can, and it's not really showing up in the box score yet.
No.
He's giving you good minutes. I didn't think he looked as good against Illinois State as he did in the first 2 games, but you can see it at least, right? Like when he comes on the floor, you can at least see it. He moves well. He moves the ball around well. He's undersized. He's really not a scoring threat yet, and that's definitely something he's going to need to build out. But you definitely see our future point guard in him for sure.
Yeah, he's really, I think, underrated defensively. And I think another one that has really done well on the defensive end and playing better than the box score shows would be like a Kellen Thames.
Yeah.
I just he's always, he's one of the guys that can poke the ball away. Medley can poke the ball away. It's just not in some people's DNA, but those two seem to do really well.
Thames is a Swiss Army knife. He seems to have really good instincts and he's developing really rapidly. And I think he's going to be one of these guys, like an indispensable. I don't even want to call him a role player. I think his ceiling is higher than that, given that he's clearly taller than he was last season and has built out his frame a little bit. He's got a great nose for offensive rebounds. You're right about disrupting defensive passing lanes. He's all over it. He's converted steals into dunks, and that's in a very limited sample size so far this season. So for being such a mystery, it's like very quickly he's opened up our eyes as to all the things he can do well. And he's one of the guys that I am most excited about watching on this team this year.
One of the guys that maybe kind of struggled in this one was Tim Dalger, 6 and 7, but got in foul trouble, and he seemed to be a little, kind of that overly aggressive, inability to finish at the rim.
Yeah, I think he missed 4 layups in the first half, and so a lot of those were kind of in transition. And it's almost one of those things like he's got a really long stride that I like. Sometimes I wish he would kind of like compact it a little bit and slow down. I think he commits to what he's going to do really early in a play.
The
And
Malik Yarborough is what we call that.
A little bit, yeah, and he's like his decision making is not always great. I don't know if it's instincts, I don't know if it's mentality, I don't know what it is, but so far he's been a little puzzling to watch. He's rebounding pretty well. He's kind of like a little bit quietly. He's one of our better rebounders, but he's when he came in, I was kind of like, well, if he can score more efficiently than he did at Tulsa, then we should be in pretty good shape. But now I see where kind of some of that inefficiency comes from, right? Like he just, I think his shot selections definitely got to improve.
Mike Meadows Jr. Had a quiet 29 minutes in this one, but is that kind of what you're asking of him in a lot of ways?
I think he's going to be one of these guys all season long where he's going to be a little bit quieter. In this game, his production wasn't great either, and it gets better over the course of this week, right? Like in the next game, he really does get better. But yeah, I think you're right. I think he's just going to kind of be that steady veteran hand back there, in the backcourt.
Steph Van Bussel came in and made his presence felt. I kid you not, set 6 illegal screens in this one.
Yeah, he really. I saw that from Bruce on Saturday as well. Like he comes in, they set the high screen, and man, do they lean into. They were practically running into it at some points, but in this game especially, I think the young bigs were just a little jacked up, and maybe a little overly zealous on those. He was really raw in this game. He did look better in the next game, but yeah, he's definitely a work in progress.
I I think this season, this is gonna be, I think what we're gonna say. This is what we're gonna say probably the entire season. I think is the energy and effort were there all game. Uh,
Mhm.
well, the energy and effort were there at parts of the game, and then it just kind of wanes down the stretch, and
Right.
the Billikens, unless this coaching staff can figure out how to get them, in better shape over the next few weeks. Like I just see this kind of being the story.
Yeah, I'm looking back at these notes and I'm like shocked at how, because I kind of write them like during and immediately after the game, right? So I'm looking back at these and they're almost the same as what we wrote on Saturday night against Illinois State. SLU led by as much as 24 and we won by 12. Didn't hit a field goal for the last 423, hit just one of their last 8 field goal attempts. They had a pretty wide rebounding margin at one point and ended up just +3 for the game. And then when you look at kind of the big man categories like points in the paint and blocks, they lose points in the paint by 14. Blocks, they only had one and they were blocked 8 times. And yeah, Zach, I mean it's concerning yet again.
Yeah, I mean, I literally, again, I have this written down twice.
Yeah, yeah,
It's I really wanted. See, that's the thing. I write these things ahead of the games later in the
yeah.
week. I think we're gonna have to take a good hard look at how we present the week of games if we have more than one. But it's I I my diagnosis, my unscientific, non-doctoral diagnosis is that Ford tries to manage the game. Like he tries to manage a win.
Hmm. Instead of just letting them play.
Yes.
And I think and really that's the character of this team, right? Like like we're like this is a very energetic,
Yeah.
competitive group of guys. And like you can see it in them, especially in a guy like Sincere Parker and his body language. And we'll get to that in the next 2 games. But like I just kind of feel like don't like just let them play, right?
Yeah.
Like roll it out there and let them play. And like when they've got that kind of lead, and you don't have to leave your starters all the way in until the end or anything like that. But there's no need to try and like you say, micromanage a 24-point lead. Just like let them keep going. Like
Yes.
they're at their best when they look like they're just kind of playing with more of an open gym mentality and just running and making those effort plays and playing in rhythm.
Yes. I don't understand, you know, man, I just don't understand it. Like, six I'm I'm annoyed at this point. Um,
Yeah,
6 turnovers though in this one was nice.
yeah,
Um, especially coming from a season where you relied on nobody on this team to handle the ball.
that's right. Yeah, I didn't know what it would look like, but so in the early going, it's very promising. On the turnover front, what they look like. Medley had 2 of them in this game. Efficiency was a little bit of a concern, though. Only 36.4% from the field. They missed a lot at the rim, like we said before. And then they only wound up taking 21 3-pointers in the end. Ford actually did seem a little upset about this. Like in the post game, he said it should be more than that. But I think in this
He
game we
says
got
that a
more
lot.
more easy
Wait
looks
till you
than
hear about the next two.
I know. Again, looking back at the notes in this one, Zach, it's a lot of the same themes that come up.
Which
One of the,
again are these same themes over the last 7 years.
and that's what I really don't understand. And I was thinking about this a lot after Saturday's game. I how do we lose that many players, that many veteran players, experienced players from last season's team, and then come back and still have the same problem, right? Like you're really only bringing back 2 or 3 guys who played significant minutes last year. I know. I see you gesturing.
Pete, let
I
me tell
know.
you something else. You brought back one coach too.
Yeah, let's look for common denominators. I don't think it's TJ Hargrove.
I'm gonna say it's look. Let them cook, man. Like
Yeah,
I
for
don't
real.
know what the I don't know what the point is.
I think short and long term, this team is going to be better
It
if you just
just
kind of
doesn't
let them play their.
matter.
Yeah. The weirdest part of this game, Zach, this floor. What is going on in that Chaffetz Arena floor? I was reminded of like the ACC tournament that had to be postponed the one year because the Greensboro Coliseum like ice was like melting underneath it or something like that. It was really concerning how much slipping there was out there. And for a minute, you were worried like our guys are getting like seriously hurt.
Yeah, I was literally yelling, "Stop the damn game!" Like,
I know.
actually, I don't understand what the hell was going on there.
No, neither do I. And I mean, they are capable of having, ice events, but like the ice wasn't down this week. Like
They
that's
don't
there's
have ice. They had, or wait,
they've had Disney
it's
on ice
fake
and
ice.
oh, is that what it is?
I think so. I thought that Disney brought their own ice, but no, I heard it. Somebody said it was fake ice.
Well, regardless, like that's
Yeah,
not a factor. So there's something going on with the floor surface or the humidity in the gym or but it wasn't as bad the next 2 games. So maybe they kind of did figure something out. But like I was alarmed at like Hughes at one point got hurt. Other guys were falling down, and they were happening like in succession too, right? Like it would be like 2 or 3 over the course of a couple minutes. That's the kind of thing like I don't want this to finally be addressed after somebody, but tears a knee. It's like
yeah.
I don't. I want the bridge to be fixed before it collapses, kind of thing. It's like
That's that's not exactly the MO around these
no.
parts.
Yeah,
Um.
well, let's hope.
Anyway, the Billikens decided to play a Division II team on Wednesday night, the 8th, and they beat them 55-22, or sorry, 102-66.
Yeah.
This one was you know what? Fine.
Yeah. It was 55-22 at halftime. This was Lincoln, the Blue Tigers. They're we talked about their conference, the MIAA, and they were 5th last year. They're projected to be, I think we said 11th or 12th this year. So they lost a lot. They've got a lot of new players, and it was clear from the start. I thought they would be a little more Kentucky Wesleyan than Berea in terms of like framing it compared to our preseason competition or exhibition competition, but they were definitely close to Berea, unfortunately. Parker had a big game in this one, Zach. 20 points in 16 minutes on 9 of 12 shooting, 1 from 4 from 3, and then he was ejected. Pretty wild game here.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what happened. I just know that he got ejected. I wasn't there.
Yeah.
I guess trash talk.
So that's what it looks like the first one was for. And then the second one, people are saying he kind of brushed the referee, like as they walked by each other. And I think that was the second tech. And somebody said it was BS and shouldn't have been given. And it was the referee and Parker didn't see him. Other people said Parker lost his cool. He shouldn't have been talking trash to a D2 school.
True.
So we didn't really see this from Parker last season because he wasn't playing these big minutes. But this year, we're now
No.
seeing it in every game where like he really gets going, he really starts feeling it, and that's the good sincere. That's what we all want to see. But then the bad side of
He
that
gets a
is
little less sincere.
he runs he runs his mouth. Well, I think he's pretty sincere with some of his trash talk too. But he clearly already has shown a tendency to kind of run his mouth and maybe make some poor decisions when he's just getting amped all the way up. So I think that's going to be a learning curve for him and for Ford over the course of the season, like when to rein that in. But 9 of 12 shooting, 20 points in 16 minutes, I'll take any day against anybody.
Jimerson, 16 points on 5 of 6 shooting, all from 3 and a free throw, all in the first half.
Yeah. Yeah, he was good.
God.
We had worried about his shot in the exhibition, worried about his shots in the first game against Southern Indiana, and then he showed right here, like, it's not broken, right? Like he's still got it. So there's just going to be nights where he's scoring more than other nights. Pretty simple.
You talked about it a little bit. Meadows 16, 4 and 4 and 22. Yeah. Big step up from the first game. Dolger 12 and 6. This one surprised me.
Yeah.
SVB led SLU with 9 rebounds, Pete.
He did, and he gutted it out for all of them. He ended up with 7 points too. I think he only had 1 field goal, and if I'm not mistaken, he was 5 of 10 from the free throw line. So he missed a couple early free throws, and then he was basically hitting 1 of 2, every time down. You could see him getting a little frustrated with himself. I think he at least thinks of himself as a better free throw shooter. So 5 of 10, going to the line a lot for a new big. I'm not overly concerned with it. You obviously want to get that up to about 7 over the course of the season, but I don't foresee him shooting 10 free throws a game or anything like that.
No, Thames and Hargrove had 9 each. Hughes, played 7 minutes and left the game. Came back with an ice wrap.
He did. They said it was just precautionary, and it looked like he kind of had tweaked his groin in the previous game. So I think between the two of those things, they were just going to kind of take it easy. And he was there for the third game. So luckily that was it. After the game, I can't remember what his comment was to the media. I think he said he had just he had basically self-diagnosed, right? Like he said, "Oh, it's no big deal. We're just being careful with it." And I think I texted you like, "Let's go have a doctor look at that anyway, Larry." Like,
nope. I want my guys. I want my guys
sure.
playing through gallstones like that.
Yeah.
You got to play through that shit.
Yeah.
You got to be tough on this team. SLU's out rebounded 42-39 with Lincoln getting 17 offensive boards. They forced 20 turnovers and while committing 12. 9 of 18 from 3. Pete, when are we gonna shoot the 3?
Well, in this game, I excuse it because they had 50 points in the paint, 29 fast break points. They had 39 free throw attempts. So
pull up on the fast break.
This is just pull up uncontested threes off the dribble.
Yes,
it's just a matter of taking what they give you in this game, and I'm not super concerned about it. But back to that turnover number, I like that one a lot. Even though we had 12, that's more than you want against a lower division team. Forcing 20 is nice because we remember last year we did not force turnovers, and it didn't matter if we were playing the Lincolns of the world or if we were playing, Providence or Maryland or whoever. Like, we just didn't force turnovers. So that's another thing that the energy, the effort, the play style that's different this year. I think that's going to be I think our turnover differential is one of the things that I think is going to be a net benefit for this team over the course of the season.
My favorite part of this show is when you say, "if you remember," because I never do. And so that's really helpful for me.
Well, you remember that we don't close out games, and
yes, I also remember that we don't defend the 3 very well.
Also true. I don't know, small sample size so far, so we'll see about that.
Yeah. Not a lot to take from this one, Pete. We thought, I think you kind of put hit the nail on the head with this one. They weren't
right. I thought they'd be a little bit better than they were, but that's all right. We luckily came out of the game without any long-term injuries, and saw some more of the younger guys. Gave SVB a little more run that I think he needed. So there are some positives for sure.
80-71 win versus Illinois State on Saturday, the 11th. Pete, it didn't have to be this way. It just didn't. I was having a lot of fun.
Everybody was.
Oh my God, was I having fun.
You could sense the energy in the crowd. It was coming across in the broadcast. I mean, you were there, so you can speak to that for sure. But like, I can tell you that on Twitter, on Discord, on Billikens.com, anywhere fans were congregating online, everybody was having a blast with this game until a very specific moment in the second half. And then we started getting those feelings again when we know what's going on, and we just didn't close it out.
Tim Dalger dunks the ball with 12 minutes and 55 seconds remaining in the game. That was the last time the Billikens scored from the field in this game.
Going through these notes and looking at the Southern Indiana game, and I remember, and I was looking at that and I was like, so we didn't have a field goal in the last 423 of that game. And I remember being like, not again. Is this really happening again this season? We're not going to close the game out. I was so mad at that 423 number. And here we are.
Did you know?
3 times as long in this game. 3 times as long, almost 13 full minutes. We don't score a field goal, and we still win by 9. But I mean, like, that's not going to happen.
Ridiculous.
We're going to need 30 and 40 point leads if we're just going to not score for the last 13 minutes.
That sounds doable.
It's just, it's insane. I just don't understand. So he makes that dunk, 12:55 left. Both teams missed some shots. ISU made one. Bruce turns it over because if you remember that pass he attempted.
So this was my favorite part of the game.
Right.
So Bruce drives down the lane. First of all, he drove down the lane and tried to kick it to Larry Hughes for 3. Then he gets the ball, he catches it palmed and palms it away, and he sees a back cut that stops short, and he tries to around baseball pass it. It was the most impressive thing I've ever seen out of a SLU big man.
He attempted a Jokic, but he didn't really have the follow through, the execution.
Well,
or the teammate.
He saw him pulled up and he tried to hold it back.
Yeah, he didn't have the teammate where they ran the wrong route basically. Yes. And so then we go down to the other end after we're turning it over. He commits a foul, and we go to immediate timeout with a 22-point lead. And at this point, you're like, whatever, right? It's not a cold streak yet. I think there was 11:38 left in the game, so it's been a little bit over a minute since we scored. But you're not concerned. We just saw our new big try something crazy, and we thought it was more fun than bad, right? Like that's.
I was high. Like, it's not like if Yuri would have tried that and did that, I would have been like, you son of a.
Yeah.
Like, but Bruce, I'm like, yeah, dude.
Yeah.
I like that.
Well, we're just getting our first glimpse at the guy, and then you see him do that, and it's like, oh wow, this is going to be an interesting player. So we're all excited, if anything. And then SLU does that SLU thing and just decides not to close the game out. They turn it over. They miss shots. They make bad decisions. Stupid fouls. Every one of those things was there, and we benefited from the fact that Illinois State just isn't very good. So we hung on. Now, they did get to within 5 at one point, and I didn't feel great about that.
Oh, I thought I was sitting there feeling like it was SIUE.
Oh my God.
The entire time.
Yeah.
We shot 6. We took 6 shots in 13 minutes.
So here's what's crazy, and I think I have this right. Until that Bruce turnover, I think we had 1 turnover. We had 1 turnover in the first half and hadn't yet turned it over in the second half. And then we had 9 in the last 13 minutes, starting with that one from Bruce. And it's not like his fault. He didn't play most of the rest.
No, he didn't play at all.
Yeah,
he didn't play again. That is the worst. Like, I don't know how you don't put him in. He was an absolute, I get that you're trying to keep, protect him a little bit, but he really, the crowd was eating him up.
Yeah.
Put him back in the game. Get the crowd back on your side.
He's going to be he's already a fan favorite, right? Like he just is. He's a 7'1" guy from China who plays like a Euro style game. and like just attempted things on the court that we haven't seen our bigs attempt before.
It was like
Fans are like,
watching
I'm into
Georgie.
this.
It was like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
watching Georgie do things, and you're like, oh, he's got that kind of moxie.
Yeah, for real. But like that, we're hitting on this like several times already. It's like that's what's so alluring about this team, right? Is we have unique players, and
Yes.
when you kind of cut them loose, like they're a lot of fun. And it's like we're 3-0. I don't know what the season is going to look like in the end, but I want it to be fun, right? Like I
Mhm.
want these interesting players to be allowed to do the things that make them,
Yes.
compelling to watch. So I don't know how much more, we're going to see those guys reined in or allowed to play over the course of the year, but I'm telling you, like,
I hope
if
it's let loose. I want them
yeah,
I want them off the chain. I want look, don't dude, if we are gonna be I'm gonna talk like if we're gonna be average this year,
mhm,
it's time to stop. It's time for Travis Ford to stop being risk averse.
yeah,
Even if we're trending well, stop averting like stop trying to manage the game. Swing for the fences.
yeah,
To quote Hank Hill, don't play lawyer ball, son. Like
yeah,
just go for it. Let them keep pushing the tempo. Oh, we turned it over. It wasn't even a live ball turnover. Wait. Yeah, it was. Okay, fine. But like let them push it. Like let's go. Like come down the court and shoot threes. Like if you're going to turn it over 8 times in 13 minutes, at least get a shot up.
mhm,
Like forget like don't get into your offense if you're turning the ball over. Just come down and shoot it. Because if you turn it over, you have no chance of scoring points. At least if you shoot it, you might score. You might get the rebound.
right, yeah,
I don't know. I don't know. Keep playing fast. If you're gonna commit to playing fast and shooting threes, play fast and shoot threes all the way
yeah,
through the game, the entire game.
yes, make it fun.
Fun. That's why we do this.
Yes, right. Fill those stands.
Jimerson had 20 points with 2 field goals.
Yes,
That's
I know.
why are St. Louis University basketball? This is where bizarre stats come to play.
So didn't Jimerson say something like, "I wish I could get"? I'm forgetting where I saw this, whether it was a text or on Twitter or something like that. But someone had shot a bunch of free throws in the first game, and he was like, "I wish I got to the line that much." So in this game, he does. He gets to the line. He shoots 15 of 17 from the free throw line. He makes 1 2-pointer, 1 3-pointer, and yeah, 20 points on a bunch of free throws. I actually it made me think of, and this is for nobody, but Chris Sloan, when he was a senior in high school, came and played at Chaminade. So I was a junior, he was a senior. So it was like Chris Sloan, David Lee was kind of the marquee matchup. And I think Sloan's team wound up winning by a few. And
Palm North?
he had like 24, 26 points, and I think he had 22 free throws. You'll have to ask him about it, but like they just hacked him, sent him to the line, and he went like 22 of 24 from the free throw line. And yes, he's not a Jimerson like perimeter shooter, but it's what it made me think of. Jimerson totally sloaned it in this
Just
game, and
just run like seriously, that's how Jimerson like I
yeah,
want him to score either on fast break threes or drives to the hoop and he's getting to the line.
it's been interesting because he does seem content to if the three's not there for him, he doesn't seem like he's worried about it this year, right?
No.
Like he's drawing fouls, he's passing, he's kind of like just letting the game come to him a little bit more. He doesn't seem the least bit concerned about like just finding open threes. So he's
Yeah.
been really interesting to watch this season. He's been a lot different.
I think it's interesting because he has like I feel like this team just moves the ball different. And I like that. Like
Yeah.
that's the thing that I was really enjoying in the home opener. And then In this one, it wasn't there as much, especially down the stretch. Like we just let the ball stick again and again sometimes. Like again, in this one, we certainly didn't press as much. We certainly didn't run as much. And I know that comes with, you know, a better opponent, but like, just do it, man. Like, I don't understand why you hesitate. Like, you put this plan in place, run the plan. Like, that's how we win.
Yeah.
You laid it out at the start of the year. How we win is to get out and run with small lineup and shoot threes.
Yeah.
Run that plan. Why does it matter if it does not matter if you look worse if you go back on that plan and lose.
Right.
So
right.
Either way, you're either going to succeed or not, but you're going to look better in failure if you just stick to the damn plan. So
Yeah.
that's my take.
And
I don't know.
You also won't cough up a 24-point lead. You know, if
that's the hope. That's
if you play
the
to your
hope.
strengths.
That's the hope.
Second game this week where they're up by 24 and they win by a lot less than that.
Parker really was a bucket getter in this one, man. 19 points, 17, 2 of 5 and 1 of 2, 9 rebounds. Nice
rebounds
game.
too. He was all over the place, and you could see it in his body language. He's got that really bouncy energy that you can see when he's feeling it. And when we go on runs, he's always the catalyst of those. Like, he's always involved in those. And once again, Zach, we also see the downside of that because he wound up with, what did they call it?
Flagrant.
Flagrant 1, I think, in this one. So they get 2 shots in the ball back after it. And so the decision making can be a little suspect. And
Yep.
I know some people are already getting a little bit peeved at that.
Oh, dude, there was a guy up in 207, 208 that was just, get off the floor, Parker.
Oh, wow.
Like, what the hell, man?
Yeah,
like,
which I wouldn't be saying based on the amount of production we're getting out of it.
No.
You know, like this is 39 points in 2 games and pretty efficiently. But he's got to know when to control that instinct to either talk trash or make a stupid decision.
You know what I want to mention, we also have Georgie on the bench. Like when we're on a, bad run, get him in there. Let him try to run him off some screens for a 3. I don't know.
I think defense is what's keeping him off the floor.
Yeah. Oh,
on the
yeah.
offensive end, he's really intriguing, but I think Ford, if I'm trying to get inside his mind, if we're on a 4 or 5 minute no field goal streak,
right,
you throw him in there and you worry about the gap shrinking, because if he misses a 3 at one end and then comes down and gets smoked at the other, then
that's fair.
So he's a high risk, high reward kind of player in that situation for sure.
Yeah, risk averse. And no, but I think that's the right call, honestly. Terrence Hargrove, I really liked his 2 blocks in this one more than I really liked his 12 points.
He certainly hasn't been in these last 2 games as much of a factor as he was in the first game. Obviously, a career night. But yeah, the 2 blocks are cool. He's still playing with a high level of energy. If you get 12 points out of him, I'm more than pleased with that.
I thought he was really good in the paint in this one. Honestly, I thought defensively he was very, very good.
He was. I mean, we're not saying as much about Illinois State's players and what they did, but he was clearly frustrating them. I thought their bigs were soft. That Lieb, am I saying his name right?
Yeah,
the big guy.
Yeah,
is total stiff, and I liked the times when TJ could just kind of frustrate him.
I liked him driving too, taking drawing the bigs outside and then driving on them. Yeah, it's real nice. It's a really nice little play.
He's been good at drawing fouls, and even if he just. He has the ability to kind of get them out of the lane too, right? And open things up a little bit more. And yeah, draw fouls, get them to make bad decisions. He was frustrating them for sure.
Dogger was steady in this one, plus 13, 11 points, 4 rebounds is kind of what you ask out of him.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it definitely made some plays that make you scratch your head, especially when we were on that cold streak at the end. But overall, he's one of those guys. Like, I don't know, I haven't clicked with him yet. I don't love watching him play. And then I look at the box score at the end of the game and I'm like, he was pretty productive. So I'll take it.
Yeah, I feel like Mike Meadows, kind of the same. He's just quiet, steady, kind of that guy we need to be him to be. Hughes 8 points, but he fouled out in 23 minutes. I'm gonna be honest with you, I had no idea he fouled out. I thought Parker fouled out.
Yeah, that flagrant was Parker's fourth. So he did go to the
Okay.
bench, but came back in, and everybody was like, "Whoa, he came back in!" And I think we were used to the game before where he got two back to
Mm.
back and was gone. So yeah, he did come back in, but Hughes, yeah, no, that was, I thought his fifth foul was pretty soft. He made a poor decision, kind of reaching his arm in a little bit there, and the ref clearly wasn't thinking about, oh, this guy's sitting on four fouls, I got to take it easy on him. Hughes just forced the whistle, I guess.
You mentioned the turnover issue.
Yeah.
I just I don't I don't know what else to say on that one.
No, I was like flying high thinking like ball protection is going to be a theme this year for this team. One turnover at halftime that goes into the second half, and then you end up with 10 for the game. 10's a good number. Even in the Soderberg days when we played a super slow pace, 35-second shot clock, way fewer possessions than we would have today. 10 was always the mark that he was shooting for. 10 or below was good. Above 10, he wasn't happy. So 10 is still a good number. But if you're at one at halftime, that's concerning. 9.5 is bad by any measure. And then we got out rebounded, Zach, 39-34. So
More
I think
Bruce.
that's going to be a common theme this year, is getting out rebounded. So you got to do all those other things, not turning the ball over being one of them.
Yeah. Points off turnover though. 26 for the Billikens, 6 for or Illinois State. Fast break points were 30-3. Billikens really liked that.
I did too. Illinois State is one of these teams. When I was doing the kind of, not the scout per se, but for our purposes, when we were doing our little preview last time, I kind of thought, I had talked myself into Illinois State actually being a bigger threat than what they ended up being, right? Like I kind of I looked on paper and I thought, well, they've got they've got a lot of returners who a few of whom were pretty productive. They have some transfers who might be nice pieces, and I really talked myself into like, this could be a problem. This game could really be a problem. And then just watching them play, it just doesn't come together at all. They play slow. I knew that coming in. They're not a big scoring team. They definitely try and slow things down, but I just was not impressed with them at all.
I was super scared that Kasubki was just gonna torch us.
Yeah, and like, come back home, have the big homecoming game, but no, he wasn't a big factor in this one at all.
Next up, the Billikens will head to the Myrtle Beach Invitational, where they'll take on Wyoming on Thursday, the 16th. I think that's at 2 or 1. And then Charleston or Vermont on Friday the 17th. Third game will be Sunday the 19th against somebody. We'll find
Yeah,
out.
right. So I actually did not. I should have done a scout on Wyoming and didn't really do a full one. Just quickly, like they
Nah.
haven't really played anybody yet. Like they played two lower division teams and won those. And then the only D1 team they've played so far is Cal Poly, and they won by 14. But Wyoming was, I think, last place in the Mountain West last year, and they're projected to be pretty low again. I'm not super afraid of this team. I don't really know what to say about them.
Yeah, it is frustrating because you like talk about that there's not much there, and it's like you get on that post game broadcast. Did you listen to the post game? Those are
um
tough for me. That's again like listening to other people talk about the Billikens is tough for me.
yeah, right. No, I didn't do this one actually. Um for what it's worth, Wyoming, I think they play a pretty slow pace, kind of like Indiana State. There's one guy that people might recognize, Cam. I hate his last name, Manyawu, I think is how you say it. Manyawu. He's from Kansas City and he went to Staley High School. And I think people might remember him. I think SLU kind of took a look at him back in the day, and I think he played for Mocan. So if you kind of paid attention to Missouri at all, he had 19 and 10 in their first game. He's a pretty efficient player, kind of a guy to keep an eye out for. He's 6'9", 228. So he's really the one player on their roster that kind of stands out to me that might be kind of a matchup issue. Otherwise, I think we go deeper than them. We play a lot faster. We could get beat on the glass, but I think our guards should be enough in this one. Wyoming they were really bad last year, and their best player was out for the year. So I feel like we should win the first one. Charleston or Vermont is going to be a tougher matchup, though, for sure.
Let's go around the A10 real quick. Give us the scores from Monday real quick.
Monday was a big night. Things got it was the big kickoff in the league, and except for one result, Zach, I think the league did pretty well. Richmond 93. They can really score this year, by the way. VMI 75, McNeese 76, VCU 65. That was a big surprise. McNeese is supposed to win their conference, but their conference is terrible. Rough start for VCU. St. Bonaventure 73, Longwood 69.
Nice.
They had to battle back in that game. Dayton 63, SIUE 47. Dayton needed a run to be up at halftime, and then SIUE just couldn't do anything in the second half. St. Joe's 81, Lafayette 60, George Mason 72, Monmouth 61, Rhode Island 81, Central Connecticut State 70, Duquesne 79, Cleveland State 77. Just eked one out there. Davidson 86, Washington and Lee 63, George Washington.
God, they had
80.
to play two teams.
Washington and Lee. Yeah, I've actually I just saw their campus a few months ago. It's a nice place. George Washington 89, Stonehill 44. And then Fordham 68, Wagner 64, a game they should have won in regulation, but they did it in overtime.
Frodham. No, Washington, the campus should be nice if it's called Washington and Lee. Tuesday the 7th, LaSalle 67, Drexel 61, UMass 92, Albany 71. Wednesday the 8th, Florida Atlantic 75, Loyola 62. Surprising, not surprising.
I mean, Florida Atlantic they're like preseason number 10. They're supposed to be great. They made the Final Four last year, but everybody's been hyping Loyola this year. So
I don't know where that's coming from, but okay.
Yeah, I know. I'm the same way. I'm skeptical with Loyola.
Thursday the 9th, Rhode Island 93, Fairfield 80. Run us down Friday 10, Pete. Friday 10 on the 10th.
That's right. George Mason 67, Austin P 45. St. Joe's beat Penn 69-61.
Nice.
Duquesne 90, Charleston 72. That was a pretty impressive result.
I hate myself.
VCU 75, Samford 65. Samford actually led for a lot of that game. Davidson 64, Maryland 61. Nice result for the conference there. And then Northwestern 71, Dayton 66. It looks like Dayton's going to struggle to move the ball around without Mal Smith this season.
Saturday the 11th, Canisius top St. Bonaventure 70-67. Nothing like watching
Bonaventure.
What?
At St. Bonaventure,
yes,
too.
Nothing like watching the Riley Center get upset by Canisius.
That's one of the closest schools to them as well.
Yes.
So that's like a very regional rivalry. And I know that when that was on the schedule, there was some St. Bonaventure fans that were kind of upset that they had scheduled it. And then other one, I really like SB Unfurled, who was saying, no, you gotta play your local rivals and you got to beat them, right? Like you can't look down at them. So anyway, they got to win that game.
LaSalle 79, Northeastern 74, GW 95, William and Mary 89. Cornell beats Fordham 78-73. Richmond over Siena 90-48. Again, scoring the basketball. Loyola 89, Eastern Illinois 65, and then Clemson 68, Davidson 65.
Yeah,
I just want to watch this whole conference burn.
Well, a lot. There were somebody said like was it Saturday? And they were just like, oh, there it is. The A10's already done for the year. They've melted down. And I'm kind of looking at the overall results and I'm like, with the exception of a couple games, not really. Like you'd probably want that McNeese game back. And then Cornell over Fordham is one you'd want back. But for the most part, it's like Dayton losing at Northwestern's not a surprising thing. Florida Atlantic was going to beat Loyola. I don't know. I thought overall it was not that bad. You know, Davidson losing to Clemson, it was unfortunate because that game was so back and forth. Either team could have had it. Davidson led for, quite a bit. It was a coin flip. So I don't think the sky's falling, but you're right. If I did know that it was going to be a one bid league, then yeah, I'm going to root against everybody. So if there's definitely a thing now where it's like, what's in our interest to root for, right? Do we want the conference to be
No,
strong
I'm a
enough to have good
sicko.
metrics?
I'm a sicko.
You're like, no, I want to see Dayton lose a bye game.
I want to watch the world burn. Women's basketball, man. Let's skip over Thursday the 9th and move right on to today. No, we're not going to do that. But first, we got to talk about signing day. 3 players put pen to paper and signed to join Tillett's squad next year.
Hannah Wallace is a 6'1" guard forward from Cardinal Ritter. Knew about her. Mia Bergstrom. We've known about her for so long, I kind of forgot about her when I was tweeting about the third one. But Bergstrom's a 5'10" guard from St. Viator in Arlington Heights, Illinois. The third one
Our
was
SLU St. Viator listeners are going to crush you for that.
Is that how you say it? Viator?
St. Viator, I think.
Oh, that can't be right.
I think so. Viator.
Ugh, I don't like that at all.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
The third one, though, is the one we didn't know about until she signed, and that's Shantiria Anumale. Anumale. I'm going to say Anumale. 5'10" guard from Fort Bend, Austin High School in Sugar Land, Texas. She's from the Houston area originally. She is a really interesting player, Zach. She seems to really fit the mold, the character, the play style of a Tillett team. She's a very kind of strong built guard, not super tall. She entered this calendar year 2023 with no Division 1 offers. And even in January was still getting lower division offers. She winds up between then and today as we pod, I guess until she signed. So between January and November, over 20 offers. And some of them were strong too. She had Seton Hall. I know she had a couple other programs at that kind of level as well. So really impressive what she did this year. Blew up in the spring and summer on AAU. I think she originally committed to Liberty back in June and then decommitted later in the summer. And
I would decommit from Liberty too.
She probably found out what it was like, but no. So I mean, hey, their loss is our gain. I think she's a really nice player, a nice surprise on signing day because I don't think she publicly committed before that. So 3 very good gets for Tillett on the fall signing list, and as always, just really excited about where this program's going.
My favorite clip from this week was the the BYU player yelling back at the fans, "Shut the F up."
Yeah.
That was perfect. That was so great. Because it was wholesome, but you can kind of rib them for, 78-66 loss versus Drake. Thursday the 9th. There were moments in this game, Pete, where I had never seen worse defense. And then there were times where they looked disinterested with the ball, where they would just Drake took one away, just literally just grabbed 2 hands and ran down the court. It was so bizarre.
Yeah, and yet SLU was leading 18-14 in the second quarter. Drake goes on a 15-0 run to take a 29-20 lead in the second and then never gave it up from there. I think Stu tweeted that SLU had allowed 9 uncontested layups for Drake in the first half. And then in the second half, I don't think they gave up as many of those. But I'm thinking about a play early in the third quarter where Drake player, I don't know who, gets the ball right on the 3-point line, kind of on the side. Well, not over in the corner, right? But she's over to the wing. And she's not looking for a shot at all. She's clearly she's waiting for one of her, teammates to set a screen, get open, make a cut. She's waiting for something to happen that doesn't materialize. In the meantime, nobody's closing out on her. Nobody's paying any attention to her on the perimeter at all. They're just giving it to her. And she realizes she's so open. She just stops and shoots and swishes it. And it was just like, if the scout on her was to leave her alone at the 3-point line, that's one thing. But like after a first half where they looked discombobulated at times and disinterested at other times on defense, it just felt more like of a piece of the whole game, right? Like it didn't bode. I don't know. Everything looked wrong defensively. And then after the game, Tillett goes, I think her quote was, "They're a little bit further along than we are in the defensive development. I take full responsibility for that, and we're going to get better at it really quickly. We got from this game what we needed." I thought that was an interesting quote. You're on mute, Zach, but I think she almost treated the first game like it was a trial run for the next one.
Yeah, I love that from her. Anything that, full responsibility. I love that. Obviously, I think that's kind of been a meme on this show lately. Kind of a theme, not a meme. Yeah. So I think, that's something I love to hear. And I think going back to, and we'll talk about the Chris Allen interview where he talked about the lull against LaSalle in the final. And he sure shit was like, that's on us.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's great to see it. I think it's encouraging.
Yeah, it really is. It speaks to, I mean, her character and the culture she's built, and she didn't beat around the bush. She was just like, we just needed to be better. And it's crazy, Zach, because even with that, right? Like, even though you're playing a team that's a top 2 team in the Valley, along with Northern Iowa, they're gonna compete for the Valley title. They might be a tournament team again. They were a tournament team last year. Very good, very disciplined, very experienced team. SLU still at times threatened and like made runs and like could have, if things had broken a little bit differently, this still could have gone their way. It was not out of hand by any means.
No, it wasn't. The turnover numbers were not great in this one.
No.
22 for the Billikens. Luckily, well, not luckily, but Drake had 26. Martinez and Calhoun, man. Well, all the guards really are just pests.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's clear that like as soon as they cross the timeline, or sometimes even before, like Martinez and Calhoun are just going for steals. They're going to frustrate the opposing guards as much as they can. I thought that was a favorable matchup for this game. Drake's a team they've got good size, but not a ton of athleticism, and so it was a good one for us to try and pick on the guards a little bit. But that was really the only defense. The only defense they really had. But yeah, on the other side of that coin, they need to get better with the ball. That was 6 turnovers for Martinez, 4 for Calhoun and Gray, and each, and then McMakin had 3. So it was just a little too sloppy with the ball. But I guess that was kind of the tenor of the game.
We got out rebounded by 11.
Yeah. Top rebounder was Tiara Simon. She had 13. She hasn't really been a scoring threat yet. And with Nook Shavers also kind of struggling to score, we just collectively were not much of a scoring threat inside. I think when you think about Brooke Flowers' production down the end of the stretch at the end of the season, you kind of wonder where the points are going to come from inside. I'm not worried about the perimeter for this team at all. The guards can really score, and we'll get into that in the next game. But yeah, inside they've got some work to do. And you're on mute again, buddy.
Damn it. McMakin had 20 points in this one. 6 of 18, 2 of 5 from 3, 6 of 7 from the line with 3 assists. Kennedy had 10 points, 4 of 15, 2 of 4 from the 3. Camry Clegg, 10 points, 4 of 8, 2 of 6 from 3. And then Gray had 12 points, 5 of 9 from the field, 1 of 2 from 3, and 1 of 2 from the line. Drake's a good team. You mentioned they're picked second to finish in the Valley. Picked to finish second in the Valley. This could have been different, though. I mean, I thought, for when they showed up, I thought mentally, I thought they were right there.
For sure. I mean, it just to me, this looked like a matchup between a team that had hit its stride in December and a team that was playing its first exhibition game, right? Like we were just a little sloppy, a little unprepared. I mean, I don't think we were unprepared. It just kind of looked like that. So unfortunate result in the first one, but all credit to Drake. They're a really good team. And this is I don't think it's a big indictment of on SLU to lose that one. Number two A10 preseason team against the number 2 Valley team. It's going to be a fairly level matchup.
You know what was awesome though, Pete?
Oh, I do, Zach.
A 93-85 win versus Mizzou on Sunday the 12th. Pete, this was one of those games though where no matter how much things were stacking up in favor of the Billikens in this one, you just couldn't let yourself believe.
I mean, that's exactly the way I felt throughout this. Like every time we had a lead, I was like, "It's not real. It's not real. Don't get your hopes up. This is great. Let it go as long as possible, but it's not real." I was
This was
I was
this
preparing
was
myself.
this was such a good game to watch. Like I tweeted out, like this is the game. This game is so entertaining. I've been forgetting to tweet about it.
Yeah.
Like where
What
you're not even on your like I wasn't like sitting up like like this like locked in, but I'm just like this is great basketball, man, and this is exciting. And I'm clapping at the TV, and
yeah.
it was so entertaining the entire game, and it helps that we did win.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
first win over Mizzou since the 2016-17 season. That was a 72-61 win. They needed a 36-point fourth quarter to make it happen, and they did.
They went 9 for 11 from the field and 16 for 20 from the free throw line. They needed to really be perfect in that quarter,
No.
and they were. Really just incredible for I don't know. I mean, look, I just told you. It never felt like it was going to be real to me until we went up I think 2 or 3 possessions, right, with like 39 seconds to go. I can't remember if we went up 5. I think we were up 7 at that point. Like we had just gone up 6 or 7. And I was kind of like, "Oh my god, this is going to happen." Uh they know this team. We saw this a lot last year, right, in close games where like they get that belief in the fourth quarter and they're hard to stop.
Yeah, and I think that first quarter was kind of brutal. You looked at the score early on because I unfortunately showed up back home. I had only gotten back home after the first quarter. So like looking at that score at first was like, oh,
Yeah.
uh-oh, uh-oh.
I think it was like 16-7 at one point, and I was like,
Yeah,
"Ah, it's just going to be one of those kind of like they're just outclassed." Like,
yeah.
all right, it's an SEC team here. We're not there yet, skill wise, talent wise. There's a gap, whatever. Like that's what I was mentally preparing myself for. But they never let Mizzou get away.
No, they didn't. 22 points from Camry Clegg. I believe she was the player of the game. 5
Yeah,
of 8 from the field, 4-6 from 3, 8 of 8 from the line. And absolute, she is electric.
she was feeling it this game. There are games where she's not hitting necessarily, and she can be kind of a little bit quieter. But man, when she's on, she was really feeling it in this game. 4 for 6 from 3. And I didn't look at that stat until late. I wouldn't have been surprised if she had only missed like 1 or maybe even 0. I couldn't remember her missing. I didn't see the entire thing. I was going back and forth, you know, fixing dinner while I was watching this game, and my kids were watching in the living room. And so like I missed a few things, but every time I was in there, she was just um determined and she was not missing. So what a day for her.
Gray is someone who I think intrigues me, and I think both of us.
For sure. Really unique physical player. But like she's just a very I don't know how to describe her, man. I mean, like she shoots free throws well. Clearly, she was 10 of
Yeah.
12 in this game. Doesn't shoot a lot of threes. She was 0 for 1, and then 6 of 11 overall from the field, for those 22 points. But I have a lot, for whatever reason, not having seen her play a lot. I have a lot of confidence when she puts up a shot. Like she's just a like she just really squares and shoots confidently, and like she had one move over her shoulder, like a nice spin move to kind of finish, that I was just like, she is a solid player. She's got a big toolkit for a scorer, and I really like the what she brings.
Yeah, I don't know. She's just, yeah, like you said, very unique. Like it seems to be a going kind of run in SLU women athletics right now, where we have just these unique ballers that get out and do things a little different, but get the results.
Yeah, and tough. I mean,
Yes.
like she just clearly has a tough streak.
Yes, absolutely. Um, Peyton Kennedy had 21 points on 9 of 12 shooting, 3 of 4 from 3. Did not get to the line. McMakin, 15 points, 5 of 16, 1 of 4, and 4 of 4. Martinez, 5 points, 4 rebounds, 11 assists. She was, again, steadily outstanding in this one.
Yeah, she was, but she didn't really play down that stretch in the fourth quarter. The plus minus numbers are really crazy here because of the lineup till it went with at the end. Shavers is the only starter who actually had a positive number
Hmm.
at +3. Simon led the team at +22, and Clegg was +15. Both of them came off the bench. So those two were in down the stretch with Gray, McMakin, and Kennedy. And interestingly enough, Martinez was on the bench. So it was kind of one of those things where, coming back and forth, I was like, Martinez, did she foul out? Did something happen? But it was kind of like, I think Tillett just saw what this lineup was doing at the time. They matched up well. Clegg was clearly feeling it. He didn't want to pull her out. So she just ran with it, and it really worked. So credit to her for really just letting them play in the flow of the game and close this one out.
The Billikens only shot 15 3-pointers in this one, but made 8 of them. Mizzou, however, went 12 of 29. They forced Mizzou into 19 turnovers and only committed 15. I think. What do you think about the free throw disparity in this one? I thought there were some that SLU got away with, but really, I thought it was fair.
Yeah, I didn't see anything egregious. It's just like when you outshoot a team 28-7, or sorry, they had 28 attempts to Mizzou's 7 attempts from the free throw line. You know that's something that Mizzou is going to point at, but like a lot of that was Mizzou fouled them longer probably than they needed to down, in the at the end of the fourth quarter when they were trying to even it out. So that was like at least 10 or 12 of the difference right there. And then, yeah, otherwise, Mizzou played a lot of zone, but really in the first and second quarters, I thought they were a little reckless with their closeouts and some of their challenges at the rim. So overall, no, it felt right, but it's just like when you see it on paper, it looks a little kind of an unfair disparity, but I don't think we've ever really seen SLU get home cooking over a power conference team.
One thing we talked about is replacing Brooke Flowers, and it seems like it's become a platoon of Shavers and Simon.
Yeah, you said you've quoted Moneyball before, like
I have.
replacing in the aggregate,
I
right? Like
love
like
that. I
replacing.
love that phrase. I don't care if it was actually in the book or not. That phrase rocks.
So I'm doing like a Michael Scott where I'm quoting you, quoting Billy Bean, or like quoting Brad Pitt as Billy Bean in the movie based on the book. So there's a few layers, removed
It's like a parfait.
in the game of telephone on this quote, but we have kind of taken that approach to replacing Brooke Flowers, because you've got Shavers, you've got Simon. They're both playing that 5 position in kind of a platoon, like you said. They haven't quite figured it out yet, but they both play hard. I like what they bring physically. There's no question that this, plus the fact that we've added Gray, has really given SLU more depth than last season. Like this team didn't go super deep last year, but right now you're like they can easily play a rotation of 9 or 10, and really compete. So I do like the depth that they're bringing, but I would like to see Shavers and Simon at least be, more of an offensive. I want to see their offense develop a little bit. I think they can rebound, but anyway, so it's not the most efficient way to replace Flowers, but I think it gives us some depth, and to just kind of highlight that, with Clegg and with Gray going off today, SLU's bench outscored Mizzou 46-16. So I think that's pretty telling.
I think it was nice of you to highlight the where we were at in the notes, because you could see my brain just completely thinking about the next thing that I was going to do and couldn't remember where the hell you were at.
Anything to help.
No, this was an evenly matched game. Like I said, it was a fantastic game to watch. 50% from the field, both teams. Defensive and the rebounding was the same. 11 ties, 10 lead changes. I mean, there's nothing you could have wanted more if you were a neutral observer. By the way, I was really happy to see on the broadcast. It felt like, SLU was the home team. Like I would, you
Yes,
get a little
yes.
nervous, but it's very nice to see that happen, because it could have not happened easily.
This is also a game where I'm glad we had a pretty decent crowd. I selfishly hoped it was going to be a little bit bigger.
Yes,
It was
at
still
least
a
one
good crowd.
bigger. At least one person bigger. I screwed up.
But still, like, it was a pretty decent crowd, and I gotta think everybody coming out of there today is like, this SLU women's team is something to see this year, right?
Yeah.
Like they if you haven't been down to watch them play yet, if you're not on this team yet, like get on the train now, right? Like say say you
Don't
were
do
there
it. Don't
when
do it. Don't give me John
I won't.
Rothstein.
I'm not going to. I would never.
Under penalty of having to pay.
I would
We'll get
never.
demonetized. We'll get copyright striked
Yeah,
for
season
saying,
desist.
if we say it.
I'm not going to quote John Rothstein. I
Thank
cannot
you.
stand the guy. But I'm just saying, like get on this team now. Like, go see them play. They're a blast. I think that's going to continue on all season long, and they have a really good game coming up next, Zach.
Yeah, Missouri State, Valley powerhouse, Missouri State, and at times national. Wednesday the 15th, and then they head to Oahu, Hawaii for the North Shore Showcase with Chaminade, Wake Forest, and BYU. They will play all three teams. This was a sweet win for the Billikens over Mizzou. And you know what else is sweet? Getting a new shipment of 2 Men in a Garden.
I guess you're right, Zach. Sweet if you choose the fruited salsas, right? Like, if you go with that mango, if you go with the strawberry, you go with the peach. The mango's the most recent one of those I got, and it's great. But I just opened my last jar from my last order today,
and it's gone.
And
it didn't make it to did it make it to recording?
I was disciplined.
Nice.
I showed discipline. I still have some left, but it was my sign to order some more. So I did what I said I was going to do. I ordered that sriracha granada, that green chili sauce. I'm going to report back on that for sure. I ordered 2 of the medium cantina. I ordered 1 more hot, and then I ordered 2 dill pickles. So I didn't do 6 different things like I've been doing lately. I kind of zeroed in on some of the ones that are my favorites, and one of the things that I wanted to try. We'll definitely report back on that. And I just wanted to remind everybody, I used Julia at checkout and I got free shipping. So that is a great deal. And I think you should get on that today at twomeninagarden.com.
I love that our ad read is for another person's code. That's like, we're for the people, guys. We're for the people.
We are.
Pete, I cannot believe it's been an hour and a half, and we are just now getting to probably the biggest game of the week in Billiken athletics.
Yeah, there was definitely an argument that to be made to have this game up top, because you're right. The biggest game of the week, the most important game of the week, and the most exciting outcome, in my opinion, of the week as well.
Yes, 2-0 win versus Indiana in the NCAA tournament first round at Herman Stadium on Friday, the night that was a bit nippy out there, Pete. But I made it through. I was woefully underdressed per usual. But yeah, dude, it was a great game. By the way, I'm gonna shout out the game day ops team. They had people walk up and down aisles and give out programs like it was church, and it was like that was a very nice touch. I will give them credit for that.
That's great. That's
That
great.
is
The crowd looked good on TV. I mean, unfortunately, we on the broadcast you always see the
I
other
know.
bleachers, right? So you never really get a sense of what the main grandstand crowd is like, but you could tell over there and you could kind of hear like it was a bigger crowd than usual. It was great. And for a cold game too. Luckily not as cold as the Memphis game last year. It seems, but nonetheless, a lot of parkas on out there. Zach, once again, like when we got the draw to go to table set this game a little bit, once again, it was just like, you got to be kidding. Like this team never gets a favorable draw in the
I feel like
tournament.
this is Groundhog Day.
Every year, you're just you're like, really, they're going to get Notre Dame this year, really, Memphis in the first round, and now it's exactly what we said, right? Like before the selection show, I said they're going to get a 30-something RPI team, and sure enough, SLU RPI of 15 somehow was a 6 seed, and they host somehow the 38th ranked team in the RPI, which is Indiana. It just every year, bank on it, they're going to get a brutal first or second round draw. It's just the way it goes with this team.
Yeah. It's the the disrespect of being a smaller school. It comes with the territory. But to tell you the truth, Pete, like this was the first this felt like the first NCAA tournament game for the Billikens where they were in control on some level, wire to wire.
I really, really like the game that they played in this game.
Yeah.
And control is a good way to put it. I mean, like we said in the last game, Emily Percelli is in absolute control of the game from the goalkeeper position.
Yeah.
And Chris Allen said it in our mini episode last week. Like, she doesn't have a lot of highlight reel saves. Number one, because the back line is so good. And number two, because she's always in the best position, right? So, like, how many times have we seen in the last few games, every save she makes is her just collecting a ball coming right to her. Like she doesn't have to move to her left or right. A couple times she's had to move laterally a little bit, like up a little bit, but
even the ones in the upper 90 she's like just kind of like she's not even diving for the ones like she's not diving.
She's like, she does the opposite of Jim Edmonds, right? Like when Jim Edmonds was in center field, he used to say like, get a late jump on the ball because it's going to make the catch look a lot sweeter. Like he was kind of flashy out there, and she's the opposite. She's like, no, be right in position from the start. So I think that's
she's lazy is what she is.
She just doesn't move. She stays at home.
Sorry, Emily Vercelli's dad. He's gonna kill me for that one.
Does he listen?
He's gonna roast us online for that one.
That's fine. That's fine. No, I mean we're it's admiration society for her right now. I mean,
yes.
like just she's just in absolute control of the game. And I gotta say, like that's so when you say we were in control of this one wire to wire, it felt like it was all coming from the back line. Our back line was awesome in this game.
And I think Chris Allen said it on the show, like they're gonna have to be on top of what was her name? I don't know. Paige Weber.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Something weird like Paige Weber. I don't know. Sounds right.
Yeah. No, I mean they shut her down. Like she did have a couple times where she drew fouls and got them some pretty deep free kicks that were there was one that she was taken down like right before the line. Like they showed the replay. It was a great replay. She was not taken down inside the box, to be very clear, taken down before she entered the box, but she you could see where she can kind of be that player who makes things happen, who and she drew some fouls, but she never really got loose sack and never really in a way that truly threatened. And so we never got one of those kind of heart-stopping moments with with the ball going to Percelli. I mean, like they were
I,
just ready for her.
I will say it was a bit of a heart-stopping moment in the 11th minute when Abby Miller was taken down in the box, and I was a little concerned they weren't going to call it.
Well, it was Larson, Hannah Larson.
Oh, sorry,
Taken down the
yeah,
box.
Hannah Larson.
Yeah, I mean, I was a little worried about it because it wasn't like a stray boot, right? That she just like was clearly tripped out of position. Like she made a cut, but she cut like tight, like right in on a defender, right? So it's not necessarily like it's
And it was
generally
it was a defender that was bigger than her too. So when they made
yes,
contact, it was gonna stop her.
that's right. Yeah, and so she went down, and I think and I try to reframe it as like, look, I think if that's in the open field, I think that's going to get called as a foul every time.
Yes.
It's a tough one if you're that defender. If you're Indiana, it's a tough one because the defender held her position, right? Like she didn't do anything like careless. She just kind of had her leg out a little bit too far, and Larson took advantage of it. And once again, I mean, like how many games in a row now she's been sacrificing her body for the good of the team and hitting the grass quite a bit.
A little nervous. It's always nervous when someone steps up to the spot, but Abby Miller put it away.
That was a perfect
Yes,
PK.
yes, and well played by the goalie, but just didn't
Yeah.
get there in time. 30th minute, Anna Lawler, late arriving Anna Lawler, to quote Bill McDermott on the broadcast. Header off a Larson corner. Slew had a few players well placed on this one, and Indiana had a line of 7 players defending, bookended by 2 Billiken players. Yeah, Lawler made that great late arriving run, Pete.
She just it's one of those like we got that great replay from the sideline that they had the 3 and 4. Indiana was set up 3 and 4, and then when the ball was delivered, they merged, right? So there were it was like a straight line of 7. It's like single file from this sideline, and Lawler was not in frame when the ball was initially hooked in, and then you just see her come out of the right. She's right in the middle. So she's basically between the 3rd and 4th of those 7 Indiana defenders. And she timed it perfectly. And it's like she knew exactly where it was going to be. So McDermott can say she was late arriving.
No, that
but
was late arriving,
I,
meaning part of that.
yeah.
That's the timing.
It makes her sound like she scrambled at the last minute, but she knew exactly what she was doing. And man, did she place that ball perfectly.
So I was standing right on the goal line. And the ball was lower than everyone else's head that was jumping in the air.
That's right.
Caught it below everyone else. And, but you could just tell it was a perfectly placed ball. And, it's gorgeous.
You really needed both replays too, right? Because the one from the press box, you see that the ball was lower, right? And you actually, that's where you actually see her make contact with it. But on the other one, on the one from the side where you get the players in a straight line because they're perfectly perpendicular with the camera angle, you can't actually see her make contact with it because she's behind the other players who were either taller or jumping up, and she crouches down, gets her forehead into it, and just squared it perfectly.
That's all they needed. 2-0 win. The shots were 17 for Indiana, 12 for SLU. Shots on goal though were Billiken 7, Indiana 4. A lot more quality out of the Billiken opportunities. Corners were 4-3 Billikens. 11 fouls for the Billikens, 10 for Indiana. Indiana had 2 yellow cards in the 81st and 82nd minute. The quality of Indiana was good. They're an up and coming. They're slowly getting to closer to where the men's program is.
I think they did a good job of taking Caroline Kelly out of the game for the most part. Really quiet, uncharacteristically quiet game from her. Gaby did a lot, and Gaby, made her presence known, but never in a way where she really got loose. So I thought they did a really good job. SLU just couldn't really be as aggressive as they normally are. Possession was harder to maintain, so you could really see like this was a step up from what we've seen down the stretch in the A10 for sure.
You mentioned possession being harder to maintain, but what I really liked in this game was the Billikens' first touch in on difficult to handle passes or balls that were just kind of stray. Like they just would like come right at one of our players, and our player would collect it. Like you've seen
Mhm.
many times, and I think it's kind of more apparent in women's soccer where the ball kind of just it doesn't get corralled and it just kind of goes back and forth. But the Billikens were able to corral in, I guess we'll call them loose balls. But
Mhm.
like on that penalty kick, the foul, I believe it was Larson who took the ball way up high and still brought it down, and then turned and went at
Yeah.
goal. So like when you're able to rein the ball in like that, like you're not. It just was something that I really noticed in this one, and I thought they did a great job. The entire everybody top to bottom. I thought the
Yeah.
team was fantastic.
Excellent effort. I mean, I think what I texted you was it was great to see them like win in a different way, right? Like we've
Yeah.
seen the way that they beat on that they beat up some of the like the teams that are just not as good. They have a very distinct plan in those games, and this was just it called for a different game plan, and they executed it brilliantly. I thought they were really disciplined and really good.
You talked about Hannah Larson. I mean, the work rate for Hannah Larson is off the charts.
She's been awesome lately. Like like I said, sacrificing her own health in the process, but she's been indispensable these past two games, winning balls, drawing fouls, just making all the little things happen. Work rate is a good way to put it, Zach. She's put the team on her back. I mean, as I guess as much as any one individual player can, because they've all been great. But I think she's just gone above and beyond.
Oh man, these numbers are ridiculous. The
Mhm.
shutout streak is now at 11, unbeaten streak at 17, consecutive shutout minutes 1,010 minutes and 37 seconds. 15 shutouts on the season ties a school record. Percelli's shutout record is at 40. Miller's games played record is at 106. And since that tie, that 1-1 tie versus Dayton on 9/24, the Billikens have outscored opponents 38-0.
It's been incredible to watch. I mean, like there aren't enough superlatives. There aren't enough great things you can say about this team. They're not. They're now at that point where like they don't have. I think there could have been a quote unquote narrative to worry about if they lost this first round game, right? Like, are they the team that's so great in the regular season and just can't hack it in the tournament? But like, I don't think that's a fair narrative necessarily, and they showed in this game that they can absolutely beat teams from power conferences and teams that are probably a little too good for them to be playing in a first round as a seeded team. But um now is when the competition gets really harder, right? And when you're playing teams that have a better seed than you do, they did absolutely what they needed to in this first round. And um it's just a relief, not maybe not a relief, but it's great to see that it's not a situation where they're just beating up on a conference that they've outshined, right? Like they can play anybody and hang with anybody.
Pete, I want to, well, let's first of all, next up for the Billikens will be Georgetown on Friday the 17th, in State College, PA, and I believe that game is at 2 p.m. That game will be at 2 p.m. on Friday. I am beside myself that they gave us 2 p.m. on a Friday. That is disrespectful. I don't know. No, anyway, State College, PA, Penn State's the 2 seed, and the second and third round games are played at the top seed's home site for each 4-team pod. Thoughts and prayers to UCLA for having to host a 4 teams that aren't UCLA.
Yeah.
Georgetown advanced with a 2-1 overtime win over Old Dominion in what was kind of a bizarre game. Old Dominion led for a lot of that game, and Georgetown equalized it in 80 minutes ish. I don't know. But I wanted to, Pete, I want to circle back to our interview with Chris Allen, man. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it really was. And I know now, if you haven't listened to it yet, if you're listening to this and haven't listened to that, it's tough to say like go back and listen to it because it's like a kind of a preview for the Indiana game. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I mean, like I think there's enough else to take from that, to where you get inside kind of the mentality of this team and of how they approach things. And he's just he's just a great guy to talk to. So I still would encourage people to go back and give that a listen, even if the subject matter might not be quite evergreen.
He confirmed my worst fears, Pete, that Hannah Sawyer is indeed a very nice person. That just ruins the illusion.
I know. We really needed her to be that heel.
I know.
She needs walkout music and everything when she comes
Stone
out.
Cold.
She's got to have like a cape,
Yes.
instead
Wait,
of
no
like
cape. Oh, come on, what are we doing?
instead of the bib, like a sub
okay,
wears,
okay.
like just like really play it up, turn to the crowd, and
does she need a
like
guitar too? Jesus, what are you turning into the honky tonk man?
I'm giving her like
into the honky tonk man.
not at all. No, that's not the heel I had in mind. That's not
okay.
nothing like that.
Yeah. Anyway, Jesus.
Yeah, she's like look, we wanted her to be that.
Yeah. I hopefully she still can be on the field.
On the field by all means.
The men's soccer team. Our Pete, I can't deal with these guys right now.
Well, this week there's really not a lot.
Yeah, no, there's not.
I mean, their RPI is 35, which I think puts them pretty squarely on the bubble. Dayton was the team that came out of the A10, beating VCU in the 2-1 in the final on Sunday, and I think actually VCU scored first. But we saw Dayton; they're a good team. And the NCAA selection show, the tournament selection show, is today as you listen, Monday the 13th. It'll be at noon St. Louis time. So I know a lot of people will have not listened to this by the time it happened. But I don't know, Zach. Any thoughts here? They're really, because it's soccer and not basketball, you don't get all the pundits writing about
who's in,
who's in, who's out, what's the bubble look like. I don't really have a whole lot of insights there.
I don't either. I think they will be thrilled to get in. I don't know if they've done enough. Volleyball, Pete. Let's run this down real quick. All respect to Coach Beatty and her pink blazer, but I'm tired tonight.
Yeah, they needed 2 wins this weekend, Zach, and they got them. 3-2 over George Washington. I mean, like, look, they needed 2 wins. They were closer than they had to be. I would have liked to see one of these be a 3-1 or 3-0 sweep, but
yes.
Well. Friday the 10th, they won 3-2, and the same on Saturday. The first one 25-21, 20-25, 25-27. Then they won the fourth 25-20 and the fifth 15-8. They got into an 8-point hole in the middle of the second set after winning the first. The third one was really close and went GW's way, but SLU got down to brass tacks in the final two. Emily Henkin with 18 kills. Delaney Rice had 17. Addie Lyon, 42 assists. Carly Rogers, 25 digs. GW actually had the edge in most statistical categories, but SLU led hitting percentage 264 to 190, and it mattered. 3-2 over George Washington again on Saturday the 11th. It was senior day. So Emily Henkin, Jillian Mattingly, Abby Lynn, Demetra Cesarli, Carly Rogers, Delaney Rice, and Cece Fitz were honored prior to the match. That's a lot to replace, Zach. Wow. 25-23.
Just noticing that too.
I mean, that's the whole team's going to be very different next year.
Yes.
25-23, 22-25, 22-25, 25-21, 15-12. So it was the same sort of pattern as the day before. Not really characterized by long runs. These were all really close games throughout. And luckily SLU got 3 of them. Kayla Richardson had a career high 18 kills. Trinity Luckett had 7 blocks. Kate Opperly had 27 assists, and Addie Lyon had 26. And then Carly Rogers had 17 digs. Zach, the 2 wins mean that they are in the A10 tournament.
Yep, they will take on Davidson on Friday the 17th at 1 p.m.
Noon St. Louis time.
Yep.
And Davidson is hosting too,
I don't
by the way.
know. I don't know. I don't know what to. I know that they can beat Davidson. I don't think anybody's beating Dayton this year.
Well, that's the issue, right? I mean, Dayton's on their side of the bracket. So
Yeah.
I think Davidson, even though they are the home team, they're a better draw than if we were to get the 6th seed and have to play VCU. But yeah, then you're just rewarded with a Dayton team that hasn't lost in a few months.
Yeah. Dayton's at 1 seed, as you mentioned. 4 seed Davidson takes on the Billikens. 3 seed VCU takes on 6 seeded Fordham. And the winner of that will get Loyola Chicago. As you mentioned, they will be in North Carolina this coming weekend. I mean, I don't know. I got no expectations.
No, I mean, you'd like to see him upset Davidson.
Yes.
That one could be close. I think they played them actually pretty well when they were out there a couple weeks ago. But yeah, it's a tough draw.
I didn't see Davidson
what,
stepping up this year. Honestly, they've been kind of bad since they joined.
Mm-hmm.
Pete, cross country. The men finished 13th in the region at the Midwest Regionals on Friday, November 10th in Stillwater, Oklahoma. They were just 3 points shy of the program record of 12th, and the women, I guess, did not.
We don't know. No,
idea.
We didn't get any word from SLU. John Bell didn't post it on his Twitter. I guess they didn't,
qualify.
Place in any way that would have registered. So we will update that if we're wrong there.
Swimming and diving Phoenix Fall Classic at the University of Chicago on 17th to 19th. We don't have any results yet on this one, but we're going to get back to you on that. They're off until January 19th when they host Omaha.
Yeah, long winter break. I even dug a little bit for the Phoenix Fall Classic, and unfortunately, they just have not posted the results online yet. So that's the fact of the matter.
Give us some signings on the softball and field hockey side, and we love one of these names.
We really do. Yeah, softball and field hockey will finish with their signing days. They both signed 3 apiece. Softball, Addie Duttlinger, who's a catcher / outfielder from LaSalle Peru High School in Oglesby, Illinois. And then Kate Profit, who is a pitcher, catcher, and outfielder from Pacific, Missouri. She goes to Eureka High School. And then the third one, Zach, is a name that I stared at for a good minute before I figured out what was going on. Scout Gallagher, not a club soccer team from the St. Louis area, but a catcher, shortstop, outfielder, jack of all trades from West Chicago High School in West Chicago, Illinois.
It took me a long time, but Scout Gallagher is a terrific softball name.
I was like, what's happening here? Scout Gallagher softball? No, this is all, what's going on here? I was like, who messed up this graphic?
This is not registering.
Yeah.
My brain can't handle this.
Right. And then field hockey signed 3 as well. Ella Etherington is a midfielder from MICDS in St. Louis. Bryn Newborn, a forward from the Hazleton Area High School in Drums, Pennsylvania. Drums, never heard of the town of Drums. And then Abby Shallow is a goalkeeper from Corona Del Mar High School in Corona Del Mar, California.
Well, it was a decent week, Pete. I enjoyed myself for most of it.
Yeah, I mean this was kind of the perfect storm this week, right? Because you've got the fall sport playoffs, and then you've got basketball starting up, and we had 5 basketball games, so it was a lot, man.
It was a lot. Well, that'll do it for us. As always, Pete. Oh, wait, no. Follow us on social media.
Yes,
at Midtown Mad Pod, at Zach Miller MMP, at Peter is a tweeter. Like us on or subscribe to us on YouTube. Subscribe to us on all the platforms. As always, Pete, go Bills.
Go Bills.